can't believe you're not wearing a costume.
I've already broke that out today.
Well, we gotta ask what it was.
Yeah. You never know. Could change. I got another showing coming up here tonight.
Pete, this morning you talked about the consistency of it. You said confidence. Confidence is building consistency. What can you just say about the team now? How confident your team is, and how that's building the consistency?
Yeah, well, we're moving in the right direction. You know, we've had a few weeks of some success here that we're building on, and it's been obviously different than it was in the first 5 weeks. I think you could see a change, and we can feel it. So it's happening. So we just got to keep building and trying to, finding ways to keep improving and minimizing the mistakes and all of that. So we're going in a good direction. We have to keep it rolling.
How's Austin Blythe today?
He's a little sore today. Can't tell what's going to be for the weekend. Don't know.
The way the defense has played, obviously, the last few games, especially in this game the other day, the defense, just how great it's been to see them perform that way.
Yeah, what was the question?
Oh, the defense, just how.
No, I know that. But what was the last thing you said?
Just the last few weeks they played pretty well. Obviously, the Cardinals game only scored 9. Obviously, yesterday, the only touchdown from the Giants was on the short
Yeah.
field. Yeah.
Well, we're definitely making progress, and things are tightening down. The running game is, if you look at the last 3 weeks' numbers, we've really shifted gears, and running game is better. The pressure on the quarterback is better. Pass defenses are all up. The sacks are going, in the opposite direction where they were. So there's a lot of really positive things happening, and we're just trying to build and keep going, and we'll see how it goes this week.
What has made the difference with the pass rush? Because it doesn't seem like you guys are blitzing a ton.
Yeah, we're not blitzing a lot right now. We're trying to just keep working on the combinations and working with the coverage and keep our guys fresh and get the right guys in at the right time and right matchups and stuff like that, and trying to see if we can figure out a way to maximize all of that. And it's getting better. We're going in the right direction.
Looking back on it, DK being able to play and play as much as he did and everything Sunday, I guess is kind of how amazing was that?
It was a real boost. It was a real bonus for us because we didn't know that going into the week. In the middle of the week, we didn't know. We didn't really know until Friday, and then we didn't know until Saturday, till after he had worked out and showed how he could do. He was confident that he was going to be able to make it. He was saying it, but we just were hesitant to follow his lead, to tell you the truth, and we were just waiting it out. And but Friday was really impressive, and so. We weren't surprised. We were just really pleased that he made it back, and Tyler too. Tyler was, he was banged up too. So both those guys, pulling through for us and showing up and being a big factor was really important.
Both going to have to probably take days off between games now.
We'll go one day at a time. We're going to see how they do tomorrow in their workouts and stuff, and then we'll know more Wednesday. We'll start with the walkthrough and see what happens there.
Is Tyler still kind of dealing with both things, or what?
Yes, he is.
Bruce Irvin, when you signed him, you said you wanted a locker room presence as well as what he could do on the field. What's he done off the field? We've seen what he's done on the field. What's he been doing?
He hasn't made any declarations or speeches or anything. He's just been with us, and just the way he works and how how quickly he transitioned right into the stuff that we're doing. He carried over from the experience he had last year, and he just jumped right in. And there's just he's got a way about him, his toughness, his mentality, his expectations from himself, and how he wants to practice and perform and learn and all that. It really affected guys. There's, we've seen this. We've got a couple of really good examples of guys coming in, older guys that they bring a presence that affects other guys, and guys can feed off it and learn and watch, and they show immediate respect too, which is really the right way to do it. And so he's been helpful so far.
Is it similar to what Adrian Peterson
Yeah.
did for the running back?
Does it also help rub off on maybe like a Deshaun Shedd and Nico Thorpe on the staff who played alongside him, and it just kind of give a little bit more juice to those guys too when Bruce gets going?
Yeah, you're right about that. That's true. There is that. That's the kind of the connection that is made, and it's we have fun with it and make fun of it, and kind of all that stuff, and so there's just a good energy about it.
When you signed him, did you think 72% of snaps in this second game would be?
No, I didn't think that was going to happen. I mean, it was an accomplishment to get him to play, but it is a statement about his preparation and his ability, his athleticism, to be able to hold on and all. He looked great. He really could have had an enormous game. If it was right within his hands there to get a couple sacks and the big play makes in the backfield and all that. So it was a great showing.
The play he made by slamming into the quarterback and slamming into Parkey, that seemed to be a freelance type play that Nwosu's been doing as well.
Right.
I'm assuming that Irvin has more cachet than anybody to do that, right? To pick his.
Well, he has the most experience, and I was really excited when we first talked to Bruce to tell him how we're going to expect him to play, because he had played in the system similar with maybe a little bit, different restrictions and all. And Chenna has been having such great success. I was excited to see him, take advantage of what he sees and what he feels, and so right off the bat, I mean, you didn't have to tell him twice. He was going for it, and we're learning to play off of those guys. That's going to take some time, and for us to time it up properly and fit off of them properly. But he really, like Mike said, he didn't take him any time, and you saw both those guys really active in the game. That's why they played a lot, because they were doing great stuff.
Around the league, there's been a record number of games decided by 6 points or fewer, but your last 3 wins have been by 10 points or more. Does that put any of the numbers into perspective, what you've done the last few weeks?
I don't know. I'm not real tuned into the league's numbers, in that regard. But we've had good, solid games now, and we've felt a certain level of control in the games, and even though this game was tight, we still felt like we were in good shape because we were playing so well on defense that we made some choices and some decisions in the game based on that, so I'm not real tuned into that.
Your offensive line, you've had Kyle Fuller played a bunch yesterday. You've had Phil Haynes in the starting lineup. Just depth-wise, how do you feel about this group?
No, we like the group a lot. We like the combinations that we can go to fill the spots. Philip has given us both sides at the guard spots. Jake has been able to play for us. We're ready to play Stone if we have to. He's ready to go. So. And it's not a surprise that Kyle played well, because he did well last year when he played, and we know what he's capable of. He's very comfortable in the system, very much in control. Has had a really good guy to look up to, and to learn from, because Austin's been in such tremendous command of stuff, and so Kyle's better too, and he showed it. He did a nice job yesterday. But we do feel really good about the combinations we can come up with.
Is there any update on Darrell Taylor?
No update. He wasn't any worse. He just couldn't go, and he tried to get. He was very optimistic and hopeful and all of that, and so I think he got 4 plays, and then he said, I can't. I just can't push off the way I need to. So he didn't injure himself.
When you had Cody Bryant, he had 5 tackles and then a sack and a near interception. What did the film show? The way that Cody Barton, the way that he played.
Cody Barton. Cody played. He did a nice job. I thought it was his most aggressive, most active game. I liked the way he was hitting the line of scrimmage, hitting the blocks and stuff. He's really benefiting from the way the guys are playing in front of him. He's fitting well. We're just getting better. We're getting better, and we're getting more consistent at what we're doing. And you can see the aggressiveness show. When they feel good about where they're hitting, they know what it's going to feel like, and the preparation really carries over to the games. Then the guys will continue to be more aggressive. You're seeing that collectively, but he definitely did show that.
How does that the style, what you're doing differently, excuse me, up front? How does that benefit Barton?
The guys up front are tying up some blockers. They're penetrating. They're hitting the line of scrimmage really well. The last few weeks, that's been the biggest change. Is the attack at the line of scrimmage has affected blocking schemes and principles for the guys, and now we're learning to take advantage of it and look for the fits to be accordingly set up. So Jordan played really well again. Didn't have as many tackles as he's been having because other guys were making them, but you could see it in Cody's play for sure. And you also saw it affected Ryan Neal too.
Speaking of Ryan, is he okay today?
Yeah, he had cramps. He had both hamstrings cramped up, and he went back on the field like he was going to go be the hero, and he couldn't even make it to the numbers. So, so it's a nice try, good effort and all that. And I'm proud of you, and all, but get your butt out of there, So.
You've always said competition brings out the best in people. Mike Jackson had a really good game. Any tie to Trey Brown coming back to practice?
No, maybe. You never know, Yeah. Comp works in special ways. And he's, I don't know that specifically, but in general, it's going to be a factor because Trey's a good football player. And when he gets back to game speed and ready to go, he's going to try to make something happen himself. So we'll see how it goes. There's nothing I love more than seeing that, and it's hard. It's hard on guys. Guys like to kind of get comfortable, and I get my spot, and I kind of own it. But it's not always like that, and so that's what good comp does.
What did you think of how Mike played?
Mike Jackson, I thought he played a great game. I thought it was one of his best game. Tackled well, hit well, covered consistently, challenged for the most part. And, he had a few plays, but we need to fix. But all in all, he was really, active, and obviously he got targeted, so he got some shots. So he came through in big fashion.
Depending on what might happen with Brown or if an injury situation pops up, could either Woolen or Jackson go to the other side, or do you like them specifically where they're at right now?
We'll see how it goes. Everybody's got to be flexible, but we're not going to wholesale shift guys all around. No, we're liking the way we're growing right now. And we pretty much, over the years, you think about it, we've tried to hold guys that play on their side. However, there's got to be guys that flip, and it's nice to have the flexibility, but we've always found it was better to leave the guys on their side.
How close does Trey Brown seem to game ready?
I think the trainers are going to want to see him sustain, more solid days in a row before that they really cut him loose. But he practiced last week, and he practiced with us, and he was going full speed. So, but in limited numbers. So they'll increase his numbers for sure, and just see how he handles it, and make an assessment at the end of the week. We're not going to rush to get him back after all the time he's been out, but he looked good last week. So I wouldn't be surprised. If he's pushing it by the end of the week to say, he looks like he can play.
What did you think of the way L.J. Collier played?
He did some good stuff. He made a couple plays, knocked the ball down, had pressure. It was great to see him get out there. We haven't seen him in such a long time. I know he was jacked up about playing and wanted to play more and all that. He's pumped up, so that's a good thing.
Is Gino's accuracy this year, and preseason included, better than it was in the previous years he was with you guys?
I can't even recount enough plays that he played where we really made an assessment in that thought to compare it. He did his job and did fine, and we always liked the way he contributed and stuff. And so but I just heard a stat just before I was walking out down here that 9% of his passes were off target or something like that. I've never heard that stat before, and I can't compare it to anything. But somebody said it was the best in the NFL. I don't know if that's true or not. You guys would know that, but. I'm not surprised by the fact that he's he's as accurate as anybody is. Because look at him. I mean, almost every throw's got a chance. He's had very few throws that one that he had to throw away or that he threw poorly or threw into challenged areas. There's been a couple. Maybe 3 or 4 or 5 in 8 games. So I don't remember that kind of accuracy. Honestly, I don't remember seeing guys that sharp. But he has done it, and remember preseason was really the indicator. Remember we used to keep tally of those. We had 3 drops and he was 7 out of 10, in the first game, and then he was 5 for 5 in another game, and then he was 12 for 14 in another, whatever it was, and those were remarkable numbers. But it's legit. He's doing it. I just don't know. I can't compare it to the year before.
Why did you sign him 4 years ago?
Gosh, it was he was just a guy to put in the running. We didn't know at the time, how much staying power he would have. Didn't know him well, and so we had to learn him. But we could see how how athletic excuse me, how athletic he was, and he had plenty of arm strength and all that. So. Gave him a chance to compete, and like what we saw, and then from there he's taken over.
When you think of where your run defense was coming out of the Saints game, I think you were allowing 170 a game on the ground to come as far as you have.
We were rope-a-dope. We were rope-a-dope at the time.
To think of how far you've come in 3 weeks on that front to where you did hold Saquon in the
Yes, I'm far. Yeah.
How shocked are you that it's come this far, this fast?
I don't have a measurement for how shocked, but scale there. But really, really fired up about it, and this was the kind of time where we were really hopeful we could switch it, and then it's happened, you know. And I was surprised we were having so much trouble. It was the other way around. Really, I can't imagine that it took us that long. But we have benefited from the past couple of years with the way we do things now and how not which we did in the last couple of years. And there's a little bit more connection than you might see. That I think it's paid off, and we learned our guys in the years of experience in the past. That now we've deployed them a little bit more specifically to all that. So it's working out. So pretty good.
How's Daryl Johnson doing and Alton Robinson?
Both those guys are not ready to go yet. Alton might be a little bit farther away than Bam is. But I was chomping at the bit to get Bam back this week, but they're telling us it's probably not that fast. So we're still a couple weeks away on those guys.
What's Alton kind of dealing with now? I mean, since the last preseason game, he said he hit his knee on the turf, and like, how's it kind of progressed up to this point for him, and how he's trying to
he's still, strictly with the trainers and all, and he's still rehabbing. He's lifting and working hard and all. He's here every day doing it, but he's not ready to push it in full speed yet. He's not to that at all. He's just in the process.
You mentioned you called Bud Grant in the locker room after the game yesterday.
Yeah.
Was he surprised?
No, he wasn't in my locker room. No, yeah.
Was he surprised to hear from you? He just watched your game, I assume.
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask Bud if he was surprised. I'm not much surprised as Bud, so I wouldn't. He probably took it in stride. Oh, okay. It was really fun to talk to him, and he was tuned into the games. He's been watching all day and all that, and so it was just we had a blast. It was just fun talking, and got to talk to Pat, his partner, and we've been keeping up for years, and it was just fun to be kind of sharing something.
Did he ever explain to you why he hired you after Buffalo let you go?
No, he didn't really explain. It's a heck of a story. I'm not going to tell you now, but there's a heck of a story that had to do with that happening, that had to do with Lou Holtz and what was going on at Minnesota at the time, and all kinds of stuff. It was a neat story, but it's too long to tell you right now.
You said, just on that note, last night in the locker room in the post game, that Bud Grant gave you a second chance, and one could assert that you've done that in your career, give players a second chance. Is that part of the influence you got from him? Or? That's
just part of it. It's just a very small part of it. But okay, here you go. Oh yeah, I don't know if I haven't told this story in so long. I don't know if I can do it right. But okay, I'd been fired at Buffalo, and I had to get a job, and so we're living in a little church house out there. We're in Orchard Park, and not many connections. I had always heard if you got in the NFL and you got fired after your first year, you're in trouble because nobody would want to bring you back. And so I felt like I was in a real pit, and I didn't know what to do about it. But I was trying, and a number of other guys had gotten fired on the Buffalo staff at the time, and one of the guys wound up at the Vikings. And anyway, I had orchestrated a couple interviews, one at Stanford and one at Cal, and for defensive jobs there. And I had set it up so I could go on the same flight to hit both those interviews and all that. So about 2 days before I was supposed to go to those interviews, I get a call from Lou Holtz, and at midnight. And at midnight, I get a call, and Lou's on the phone, and his Coach Holtz, and whatever, and we start talking, and he said, the way I remember this, Lou said, we have a chance to be a national championship team here at Minnesota if we can just get a secondary that can play, national championship level football, and I'm looking for a secondary coach. And so, we talked a little bit about it, and he blew me away and wowed me as he always did. And so, he said, I'll call you tomorrow at noon. Okay, and let you know more. So great, you know. So hang up. I tell Glenn, hey, maybe we got a chance, you know, maybe we got a chance to go to Minnesota or whatever. So the next day, 12 o'clock rolls around, and I don't get a call from Lou. I don't hear from him, and you know, and the rest of the day I don't hear from him, and I figured, well, something fell apart. It didn't work out. So remember the writer, the editor of the sports section, Sid Hartman. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I've got my interviews coming up, and it's like the Friday I'm supposed to go out. I'm going to be out gone on the weekend. Don't hear back from Lou at all, and so I take off, and I'm heading to the airport, and I'm flying to the airport. I get there, and I have a connection in Chicago on my way out from Buffalo, and I called Andy, my buddy that was on the staff at Minnesota, and I tried to make a call to him at the Minnesota office while I'm waiting. I told the stewardess right across the hall. I said, I got to make one phone call. Don't close the door. You know, I'm coming. Okay, I'll be there. So she's like right across the hall. So I'm on a payphone, and I call the office, and I said, can I talk to Andy? And the secretary says, well, he's not here right now. And I said, well, would you give him a message that Pete Carroll called, because he was my connection to see if because there was one secondary job going on in Minnesota at the Vikes. It was all the jobs were all closed. It was like it was in March almost by the time. So the secretary says, I said, this is Pete Carroll. Would you let him know that I called? And she said, Pete Carroll. She said, well, Coach Grant is talking to your wife on the other line. I said, what? And so next thing I heard, click, and they, hello, Pete? Yeah? And they said, this is Bud Grant. And I'm thinking, holy shit, hi, Coach, I haven't talked to him, and I'd never ever heard from him ever. And so he said, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm getting on a flight. I'm going to the West Coast. I get an interview at Stanford and Cal. He said, well, don't get on that flight. Well, I got to go. They're closing the doors right now. He says, Pete, I said, don't get on that flight. Get the next flight to Minneapolis. And I said, okay. And I hang up. That was it. I didn't know anything. And so I said, close the door. I can't get on the flight. And I run down through the airport, and I get hooked up, and I get a flight. And then I call Glenna and find out, what's going on? She said, well, Coach Grant was just called, and he was trying to talk to you, and I think he wants to talk to you about it. I said, well, anyway, so I didn't know anything. So I called back to the office, and I finally hooked up and got some information, and they told me to, I told them the flight I'm coming on, so that was it. I didn't know anything. And so that night, I wind up in Minneapolis. Instead, I didn't even call the guys in Stanford or Cal. I didn't even talk to them. I didn't know what to do. And so the next morning, I'm interviewing with Bud Grant, and we're walking around the facility, and that was the start of all that thing. Well, later I find out that, if this is all right, later I find out that in the morning that I was supposed to hear from Lou, Sid Hartman had been with Lou, sitting in his office. Sid was you guys all know who he is. And he had told Lou that, or they had talked a little bit, and he said, yeah, I'm talking to Pete Carroll this afternoon, or whatever, and Sid tells him that, well, Bud Grant is interested in the same guy. He didn't know who I was. And so Lou said, well, if Bud's interested in him, I'm not going to have a chance to get him, so I never hear from him again, right? So that's how that happened. So somehow that connection made all that take place, and had I not called at exactly that time, I'd have been on that flight. I may have never even, I don't know what would have happened. So it was a great story. And then obviously Bud, offered me the job and felt sorry for me or whatever, and gave me a chance to get back. So that's how that happened. So I felt it was very fortuitous, and I've been very lucky. So.
Sid Hartman got you back in the NFL.
Sid Hartman may have been the guy who got me it all happen. Somewhere in there, he was negotiating for me. He didn't even know who I was. But from that point on, Sid always kind of took me under his wing, took care of me. So we had a great relationship. Okay, so that was that.
Thanks.
Thanks for letting me tell that story. It's fun to revisit that.
One quick thing, going back to Gino. You mentioned yesterday that he's not slowing down. There's no mystery about what he's doing. Do you get the perception maybe that people thought what he's doing is a fluke, or that he'll run out of steam at some point with the way he's playing?
I'm sure, I'm not paying that much attention to what everybody's saying right now, but I would bet that there's somebody taking that slant on the things, or somebody who said that there's no way he's going to ever be able to play is still trying to cover their tracks on it. I don't know, maybe he's won everybody over. I don't care, and it doesn't matter to us at all. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing. He's 32 years old, and he's playing football for the first time in 4 or 5 years. So maybe he's 26 years old or 27 years old. You know, body-wise, I don't know. But he's handling it great and hanging in there. And maybe there's somebody who has that perspective, but we certainly don't around here.
With him, there hasn't been any sort of, look at me now, I told you so type of comments.
Never. Not one flinch in that direction at all. Would he have that in mind? Maybe he does. I wouldn't doubt it. There's times when he thinks about it. He's a great competitor, but he's just what he's saying. He's doing, and he's telling you guys how he sees it and how it's kind of played over him, and he's just going and playing football and having fun, doing his job and making the most of it. I thought it was really interesting. I got to see the clip of the interview with Tyler and DK last night. I thought that was awesome. That was great. Those guys were together, and it just showed you how connected everybody. It just showed you kind of an inward look at those guys being together and interacting and all that. That's what we see around here.
The obvious inference to that, Pete, is that it wasn't that way the last couple of years.
Say that again.
The obvious inference for people that are around here is that it wasn't that way previous years. It wasn't that close. There wasn't a connection, quarterback and team. But I'm going to guess you're going to say that that's the way the culture is here. It's not that this is any
I think people are different. Not everybody's the same. It's not Gino's his own guy, and he's been building relationships, and working on, his connections with guys for years around here. He's been here a long time, so he has well-established relationships. The dynamics shift some, but I think it's shifted in the way that our guys are thrilled for him because they like him so much and they respect him and all that. And so they see him do well, and I think they see that they're playing a role in his story too, and it's really fun, beautiful deal.
Anything else? Thank you.